Hi, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Sue. You know, the holiday season is upon us, and Greeks love Christmas trees. I think most of us know that. But did you know that Greeks also have a special cake they make just for New Year's to celebrate the beginning of a brand new year? And that's what we're going to make today. Vasilopita, Greek New Year's cake. Today's recipe and all the recipes that we've used on this show so far can be found on our website, Tweeton.com. Be sure to look us up. You'll find our recipes. You'll find a way to email me. You'll find links to other Greek sites that will give you more insight into the Greek culture. So be sure to look us up, Tweeton.com. There are basically two different ways to make Vasilopita. One recipe that many people use includes yeast, and so it's more like a sweetened bread. The recipe I'm going to share with you today is my family recipe, the recipe that my grandmother handed down to my mother and my mother to me. It makes a very dense cake, a little bit like a pound cake, but there's a special surprise. It's decorated on top with almonds, and inside should be hidden a coin. And the person who gets the slice with the coin is supposed to get good luck and fair fortune throughout the entire new year. Vasilopita doesn't take a lot of complicated ingredients. It's a wonderfully simple cake to make, but you do need a few things. And of course, one of the things you need to have is some butter. You need 1 pound of sweet, unsalted butter, and make sure it's unsalted. You need some sugar. Of course, you need some flour. You need at least 6 eggs, a little bit of salt for leavening. You need some baking powder. For flavoring, just vanilla. And here's the surprise. You need an assortment of coins so that you can hide them in the cake. And for the decorative topping, some blanched whole almonds. And blanched whole almonds means almonds that have had the skin removed. That's really important. Now put these few ingredients together and you'll have just a really fun New Year's cake. The first thing I'm going to do is get my coins ready. I've got a bunch of quarters, and I'm using quarters because they're big, and hopefully there's no way anyone can accidentally swallow a quarter. But I want to wash them, get all the dirt off of them. The first thing I want to do is get my liquid ingredients ready, and I want to start with the butter. I want to cream my 1 pound of sweet unsalted butter. I've left it out so it's about room temperature. So I'm just going to get out my mixer, and you can do this with a handheld mixer or a large bowl mixer, it just doesn't matter. But you do need to cream the butter. And because I'm going to be buttering my cake pans, I'm going to save the butter wrappers and use them for the buttering of the cake pan. That'll help me a little. Okay, here's my butter. And now it's just a matter of getting my mixer and creaming this until the butter is light and fluffy. It'll take a few minutes. What I wanted to do was get the butter light and fluffy, and that has happened. Now to this, I want to add 2 cups of sugar. So 1 cup, 2 cups of sugar, and I want to cream that with the butter for a while and get that all light and fluffy too. And just remember from time to time to scrape down the side so everything gets incorporated. The sugar and the butter together will form a substance similar to a really rich buttercream frosting. Tempting. Might want to stick a finger in there and swipe a taste. I'm just going to keep creaming a little bit longer. Okay, now that's good enough for the sugar and the butter. Now the next step is to add the 6 eggs. Now you can break your eggs separately into another bowl, then pour them in, because that's what everybody recommends so that you don't make any boo-boos, but I'm going to throw caution to the wind and break my eggs right into the butter and sugar mixture. Actually, the creaming of the butter and incorporating the sugar is the hardest part making this cake. Everything else is a real breeze. Right there, 6 eggs. Almost lost a big piece of shell. And to this, as long as we're dealing with liquid ingredients, I want to add the flavoring, which will be 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. This is a very simple cake with a very simple taste, just a wonderful buttery, eggy, vanilla flavor to it. Very different from all those syrup-laden Greek desserts. Okay, now it's just a matter of mixing up the eggs and getting them incorporated with the butter and sugar. Start off on a low speed, obviously. And just remember with this, especially from time to time, to scrape down the sides and get everything incorporated as well as you can. And this is just perfect. You can see how nice, light, and fluffy it is. The butter's perfectly mixed with the sugar and the eggs. And so I'm just going to set this aside and get my dry ingredients ready. You know, Greek people love Christmas. It's one of their favorite times of year. And of course, the way Greek people celebrate Christmas is by making some of those absolutely delicious Greek sweets. Traditionally, at a Greek home at Christmas time, you'll find baklava with the phyllo, the nuts, and the honey syrup. You'll find melomakarna, the little oval-shaped honey-dipped cookies. And you'll find lots of kouroubiedis, those wonderful powdered sugar, all butter mounds. Yum, yum, yum. Now that's just for Christmas. What we're making today is for New Year's. So you know that around Christmas time, Greek people are feasting and celebrating and having a wonderful time with friends and family. And that's part of the fun of this particular cake, because it's really fun for the entire family. And I'm going to show you something later on that my grandma used to do that makes it really, really special fun for kids. Now we're going to take care of the dry ingredients. And I have a separate bowl here for them. First thing is the baking powder. I need 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And when you go to use your baking powder, be sure you check the date, because you want to make sure that it's relatively fresh. If it's not fresh, it's not going to work, and you're going to end up with flat baked products. So 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And one of the reasons you do the dry ingredients separately is so that you can incorporate, especially the leavening, whatever it is, baking powder or baking soda, you want to incorporate it completely into the flour mixture. All right, now we need just 1 teaspoon of salt. Just to make sure that my leavening is incorporated completely in my flour, I'm going to be whisking everything together after every cup of flour. So my only worry is that I don't lose count. All right, here's cup number 1. And I want to whisk the baking powder, especially in salt in that. Okay, now cup number 2, and so on and so forth until I get to the 7th cup. And this is it. I didn't lose count. It's my 7th cup of flour. In it goes. Put away my real fancy flour container and just mix it up just to make sure that the baking powder is fully incorporated in all that flour. Okay, now it's time to put everything together. I'm just going to be adding the flour gradually and stirring it into the butter, sugar, and egg mixture. Now this is going to make a very, very thick and dense dough. It will not be fluffy like a typical yellow or white cake. So don't worry about how dense it seems. It'll be more like an old-fashioned pound cake. Very, very thick batter consistency. And just incorporate everything as best as you can. You need a sturdy spoon. This is one of my favorite desserts because it isn't overly sweet. It has a taste similar to Coludia. And of course, with all that butter, kind of a cross between Coludia and Cudebiedes. And as a kid, it was always so much fun finding the coin. Somehow I always found a coin. I wonder why. Just take your time, take it easy, and little by little just incorporate all the flour into this butter-egg mixture. Well, I'm done. I've incorporated all the flour into the butter and eggs, and you can see this is a really thick, dense dough. So it's going to be a little bit of a chore getting everything mixed together. It'll take some muscle power, but the end result is going to be wonderful. Now it's time to shape the cake. This recipe will make enough cake for 2 8-by-8-inch square pans. But I'm going to do something a little different, something that my grandmother used to do. I'm going to make 1 8-inch square cake pan, and that'll be for the entire family. And I'm going to hide just 1 coin in this one. However, what my grandma used to do is she'd get those little teeny pie tins that were left over from pot pies, and she would make each of the grandchildren a separate Vasilopita. And inside that little mini Vasilopita cake, we would get 2 or 3 coins. And it was always so much fun to have my own little cake, and then practically every slice that I took, I got a coin. Now that's what you do for people that you love. And today I'm going to take what would have gone into a second 8-by-8-inch cake pan, and I'm going to make 2 or 3 smaller Vasilopita cakes for some close friends. First thing I do before I start to put any batter anywhere is I want to butter my pan. So I'm just going to take the leftover butter wrappers and rub them, get off any excess butter that was left, rub them on the pan, and get each pan well buttered. You don't want to use leftover butter wrappers. You can grab a little stick of butter and just rub it along. That'll work too. Or you could use some of the butter flavored spray. Just remember that the pans do need to be greased a little bit. Otherwise, nothing will come out. It'll just stick to the pan. Now, before I even think about putting batter in those prepared cake pans, I want to get my coins ready. They are washed, they're dried, but I'm going to wrap them each individually in just a little bit of aluminum foil. Very important step. You don't make Vasilopita without adding at least one coin. And that's one of the reasons why Vasilopita is a friendly dessert. You only serve it when you have your whole family around or you have some friends around, because the real fun is to see who's going to get the coin or coins. This dough will make 2 cakes, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it, kind of just portioning it down the middle. So this side will go to my full 8x8 cake, and this side will go to my little individual cakes. Now from this, I want to spread out half of the batter on the bottom. And you probably have to do what I'm going to do, just get in there with your fingers and spread it out. It's so very, very buttery, it doesn't stick to your fingers at all. And now I'm going to take my one single coin and find just the perfect place to put it. I don't think I'll put it dead center, I'll put it right here. All right, and now it's merely a matter of putting the rest of the batter on, covering up that coin. And now you do want to make sure you get it as evenly distributed as possible. Work it into the corners, up to the edges, and then flatten it down. You don't want to have a mound in the middle. And yes, it has a homemade look. And you know, that's one of the neat things about it. It's a homemade treat. Okay, that's flat. And now it's time to make the individual Vasilopita cakes. And you could use any shape you wanted. I just happen to have these little mini bread pans around, but you could use the little pie tart shapes. That would work. Something square, it really doesn't matter. I press this down a bit. And the coins. In they go. Now you do not want to cheat. You don't want the coins sticking out, so I'm going to cover it with dough. And it's the same idea. Just make sure the coins are covered, hidden away, and try to make it flat as possible. Okay, I think these are done. Vasilopita are traditionally decorated with blanched whole almonds. And blanch meaning that the skin is off of the almond. Now, I'm just going to spread a bunch of almonds out. You can decorate it any way you like, whatever decoration fits your fancy. I'm going to put a couple almonds, a little thing like that, in each corner, just to decorate the corners, and press them down a little bit, but don't press them down too much into the cake. And so that'll give me sort of decorative corners. I don't want to use that one because it's not beautiful and perfect. And that's another thing that's kind of nice about Vasilopita. You get to create your own little patterns. If you're very creative, you can come up with something great, or if you're like me, you do the best that you can. Okay, now I'm going to just put something in the center and a couple little things here. I guess that's good enough for me. All right, that's my big cake. That's the family cake. Now to the individual cakes. I'm going to make one for my mother. So I'm going to make a big A for Andonia on her cake. And that way we'll know this is for Andonia. And this middle cake I'm going to make for me. So I'm going to just put a big S on it. And that's one of the things that's fun that you can do with Vasilopita. You can put initials with the almonds, or just a special design. If the child likes airplanes, you could try and make a little airplane. You could use slivered almonds too. That would help you be more decorative, although the whole blanched almonds are more traditional. When it comes to kids, you want to have a lot of fun. Okay, so here's my S. And this last cake is for someone very special who works so hard and contributes so much to this show. This cake is for the hand man. And so I'm going to give him an H for hand. There's my H for Mr. Hand. One last step before these go into the oven. If they went into the oven right now, well, they taste good and they look okay, but they need something extra, and that's the special glaze that's going to make them shiny, glossy, and very brown on top. So what I need to do is make that glaze. I need 1 egg yolk. 1 egg yolk. So crack the egg and separate the yolk from the white. Okay, there's my 1 egg yolk. And to the egg yolk, I want to add 2 teaspoons of milk. All right, there's 2 teaspoons of milk and 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. There we go. Now all I want to do is just mix this up. This is what makes the pretty, glossy and shiny covering that you see on Vasilopita and on the Colludea. Those delicious sesame twists. Now it's just a matter of brushing this glaze over the cakes. And be sure to get a good brush on there. Don't make it too light or else there won't be any glaze. Be sure you get those almonds. Every surface needs to be brushed, especially the almonds, because they look so pretty with this glaze on them. And you don't want to overdo this. You don't want to have it swimming in the glaze, but at the same time, you want to make sure every surface is covered, and especially all the almonds. Now I'll do the little ones. This is my mom, A for Andonia. She may not get as much of a treat out of getting a couple quarters as I did when I was a kid. And this is mine. And the fun thing about Vasilopita was we didn't make it except once a year, so it was a big treat. It was fun and a treat. And of course, the cake for Mr. Hand. H for hand, H for helper. And this is nice because it keeps all the fun of the holidays going, having something really special and traditional just for New Year's. Okay, now they're ready to bake. The cakes need to bake in a 350-degree oven for at least 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to check them at 30 minutes and see if they're done. The top should be a nice golden brown, And I'm going to insert a little probe just to make sure it comes out clean and the cake is completely baked. So in they go, 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. I left the cakes in for about 40 minutes. You can see they're just a beautiful dark golden brown, really glossy and shiny because of that egg wash. And the little individual ones are ready to go too. If you wanted to, you could make all individual cakes. That would be kind of a fun thing, and you could give them away as gifts to friends. Before serving, you can serve it right from the cake pan, or if you wanted to, you could take it out and put it on a nice decorative platter. This can be served in thick 1-inch slices with some sliced fruit or maybe a dollop of whipped cream. But remember, the thrill of the cake is trying to find the coin. Now I'm going to save this one and give it to my mom later in the week. And I'll be nibbling on mine for the next few days. But I want to serve this H up for my handy helper. Okay, here's my special H cake for my handy helper. Want to have a treat? What?